One man, one moment, one dance that captured the heartbeat of a nation. In 2010, Asamoah Gyan was not just scoring goals, he was leading a revolution. Every goal, he did not just change the scoreline, he changed the identity of Ghanaian football. But his journey was not just about goals, it was about the highs that made an entire country dance, and the heartbreaks that brought them to their knees. When Gyan danced, it was not just a celebration, it was a declaration. Ghana had arrived, Africa had arrived. But as the world celebrated, something darker was at play. A nation pinned its dreams on one man, and when that one man failed, the consequences was devastating. From unforgettable triumphs to tragic misses, Gyan's legacy is not just about football, it's about resilience, transformation, and the complexities of fame. This is the untold story of the man who danced his way into history, only to leave behind a broken system in need of reinvention. What happens when a star's brilliance is not enough to carry a nation? When Asamoah Gyan scored, he did not just strike the ball into the net, he danced. His baby girl dance was more than a celebration. It was an emotional release, a moment where football transcended the pitch, capturing the pulse of a nation. Gyan's famous goal against Serbia in 2010 embodied this. The ball hit the back of the goal, the injuries that kept him sidelined, and the finals loss. These two became a part of Gyan's legacy. The dancer who made a nation smile was also the striker who made a continent weep. In his career, the ecstasy of Ghanaian football lived side by side with its agony, a perfect reflection of the beautiful, heartbreaking complexity of the sport itself. But what happens when a hero, shattered by his own mistakes, seeks redemption in the most unlikely place? When the man who missed Africa's greatest penalty finds salvation not in Europe, but in the blistering heat of the Arabian desert. Al Ain, UAE. The sun blazes down on the desert. The temperature, a scorching 45 degrees Celsius. It seems like an unforgiving place for redemption, yet here, Asamoah Gyan found it. When Gyan left Sunderland for Al Ain in 2011, critics called it career suicide. They said he was chasing money instead of ambition. But Gyan saw something they couldn't, an opportunity to rebuild, to redefine himself. What followed was a stunning resurgence. 100 goals in 98 appearances for Al Ain, 3 UAE Pro League titles, Golden Boots, Player of the Year awards. In the desert's harsh conditions, where most would crumble, Gyan blossomed like a rare desert flower. His hat-trick against Dubai FC in 2013 was a testament to his skill. The third goal, a delicate chip over the goalkeeper, seemed to defy gravity, hanging in the air before landing softly in the net. The crowd erupted, not just because it was a great goal, but because Gyan had earned their love. In Ghana, they remember the miss. Here in the UAE, we remember everything else, an Al Ain supporter once said. In the UAE, far from the shadow of his World Cup failure, Gyan rediscovered his joy. Yet, even as he found success, Ghana's footballing identity was beginning to fracture. While he was striving in the desert, his choice to leave Europe behind raised questions. Was he still the hero they needed? Or was he, like so many others before him, lost to the pursuit of wealth over glory? Some moments in football become more than just events. They become collective memories, cultural touchstones that define entire generations. And for Ghana, one question still lingers. Where were you when Gyan missed? That missed penalty in Johannesburg wasn't just a moment, it became the moment. Across Accra, in crowded bars, most men clutched each other, their faces twisted in agony. The collective heartbreak was so profound that it felt like the entire nation held its breath, and then, when the miss was confirmed, let out a collective sigh of despair. This was more than football. It was a national trauma that no one could escape. Across Africa, the pain was shared. From Nigeria to South Africa, Ghanaians and Africans alike mourned together. In Johannesburg, where Africa had hoped for its first World Cup semi-finalist, the echoes of Gyan's miss hung heavy in the air. The haunting nature of that moment persists, not just in Ghana, but across the continent. Yet, in Gyan's refusal to let that miss define him, he taught Ghana a lesson in resilience. He stepped up again, continued to score, and maintained an impressive penalty conversion rate throughout his career, showing that failure is not the end, but an opportunity to rise again. Behind every fortune, there lies a price, and for Gyan, his golden cage, a life of wealth and fame, proved to be a prison of a different kind. At Shanghai Stadium in 2016, long after the crowd had left, Gyan remained alone. Precision and focus marked his movements as he practiced penalty after penalty. His £227,000 weekly salary, the reward for his dedication. But for all his wealth, the spotlights and the records, Gyan's reality was one of solitude and pressure. The cage, golden though it was still a cage. People see the money, not the sacrifice. They don't see the loneliness, the pressure, the expectations. Gyan said his decision to move to the UAE and later to China reshaped African football. He proved that African players could demand and receive financial recognition on par with their European counterparts. But his path also set a dangerous precedent, one where financial rewards became the end goal, overshadowing the pursuit of technical and professional growth. Yet, Gyan's financial troubles later in life reminded the world that wealth, even when vast, does not guarantee security or happiness. His failed ventures like Baby Jet Airlines became a cautionary tale for the next generation of African football. One goal, one touch, one moment of brilliance that would alter the course of African football forever. And with it, the dance, a celebration that would connect generations. The 2010 World Cup, extra time, Ghana vs the United States. Gyan's first touch, perfect. His finish, unstoppable. And then the dance. That goal wasn't just a goal, it was a declaration. Africa had arrived, Ghana had arrived, Asamoah Gyan had arrived. Before Gyan, Ghana produced exceptional players, but none had achieved what he did on the global stage. His 6 World Cup goals remain an African record. His 51 international strikes dwarf all those who came before him. But Gyan's brilliance created a dangerous dependence. Ghana's entire football strategy became centered around him. When he shone, Ghana soared. When he faltered, the team struggled. The Gyan or nothing mentality took root, and it will be this very focus on individual brilliance that ultimately fractured the collective strength of Ghana's football system. But in the shadows of Gyan's stardom, other talents were left to wilt. The weight of one man's greatness would come to reshape not only Ghana's tactics, but his entire approach to football. As Gyan's career soared, the spotlight grew ever larger, casting shadows on the rest of Ghana's football system. The tactics that worked for a while, centered on Gyan's brilliance, eventually began to expose the cracks in the collective structure. In 2014, during the World Cup, the cracks were impossible to ignore. Ghana had a team full of potential: Andre Ayew, Asamoah, and many others. But the system wasn't built to foster this collective strength. Instead, it was Gyan's world, and everyone else had to fit in around him. The strategy was clear: feed Gyan, let him create magic. But what happens when the magic doesn't come? When the star player gets injured or his form dips? What happens when the world revolves around one man? And that man can't always be at his best. At the 2014 World Cup, this reality hit home. Ghana was eliminated in the group stage. Gyan's goal in a loss against Portugal, his dance of celebration, felt almost like a bitter reminder of how far Ghana had fallen from their 2010 World Cup glory. The Gyan or nothing strategy had, in the end, left them with nothing. With the collective system fractured, the truth about Ghana's footballing future became undeniable. What happens when the star player leaves and the team is left to pick up the pieces? As Asamoah Gyan moved through the latter years of his career, his absence from the Ghanaian squad at the 2019 African Cup of Nations marked the final phase of a changing landscape in Ghanaian football. The team no longer had the singular brilliance of Gyan to lean on. Young players stepped up, but without a foundation. The results were underwhelming. Ghana's failure to even qualify for the 2018 World Cup seemed like the logical conclusion to a team built on unstable ground. In the wake of Gyan's departure, the question that lingered was, could Ghana rebuild without him? Could the nation redefine its football identity, no longer tethered to one player's legacy? The answer was as complicated as the journey. On the one hand, Gyan's absence created space for other talent to rise. Players like Mohamed Kudus and Thomas Partey began to show their worth. Yet, the shadow of Gyan's legacy remained. The expectations continued to be higher than the team could handle. Perhaps more than anything, Gyan's career taught Ghana that a single star can't carry the weight of an entire nation. In his absence, the challenge was clear. The system needed a reset. No longer could Ghana rely on individual brilliance alone. It needed a framework for sustainable success. A team, not just a man. A nation may be broken, by one man's absence. But can he rise again from the ashes? The question of redemption and the future of Ghanaian football looms large. With Gyan's final exit from the national team, the Black Stars entered a phase of transition. But what did this transition look like? Was there a future for Ghanaian football beyond the shadow of its greatest goal scorer? Redemption didn't come from the pitch alone. It came from the realization that Ghana had to evolve, had to embrace the lessons of Gyan's career and move forward, not by mimicking his greatness, but by creating a new path, one where collective strength is precedent over individual brilliance. The footballing community in Ghana, from the GFA to the youth academies, began a long process of rethinking the future. Young players no longer looked at Gyan as the sole example of success. They looked at what he had taught them. They looked at how he had pushed boundaries, yet failed to uplift the systems around him. In Gyan's absence, Ghanaian football found room to grow and evolve. But it would take time. The country's next steps would be harder, requiring more collaboration, more unity, and a willingness to adapt to a new world of football where the star player was no longer the singular focus. What Asamoah Gyan did on the pitch will live forever. The goals, the dances, the headlines differently. He proved that African talent could not only compete with Europe's finest, but could define the game on its own terms. He broke barriers, shattered expectations, and became, for every celebration, there were times when the weight of expectation became too much. His career is a living testament to the complexity of football itself, the triumphs and tragedies, the glory and the scars. And perhaps, in the end, that is the true measure of greatness, not in the perfection of a career, but in the honesty of a journey. Gyan's journey was filled with both light and shadow, and that is what made it unforgettable. On football fields across Ghana, young players continue to celebrate like Gyan, launching into his trademark dance after scoring a goal. They didn't see him play in his prime, but they know his name, they know his legacy, and they know the dance. The dance that was born out of joy and became a symbol of national pride, now lives on as a cultural inheritance. It is passed from one generation to the next, a tradition that connects the past with the future, the broken with the beautiful. In the end, Asamoah Gyan did not just break Ghanaian football, he transformed it. And in that transformation, he created a legacy that will never fade, not because of the records, the goals, or the celebrations, but because of the lessons he left behind, the importance of resilience, of fighting on after failure, of knowing that greatness is not about perfection, but about embracing both the highs and the lows. The dance goes on, the legacy lays on, and the story of Ghanaian football, still unfolding, will always be intertwined with the unforgettable journey of Asamoah Gyan.